In this tutorial, I'll show you just how to get transparency working in Arnold. I did another tutorial about this, but Arnold keeps changing and I think it's becoming a little bit more user-friendly, so I'll do this follow-up one. So I'm just going to quickly put a grid in here, so polygrid, and scale up. So this would be the floor for my scene. I'll just make that nice and big. I will then put that on a display layer again so I don't keep accidentally selecting it. So I'm going to just turn off my wireframe grid like so, and that little icon there. And I'm going to put a light in the scene. So I'm going to go to create lights, and I'm just going to use a point light like so. So I'm just going to move that up and put it right up there. And then I'll press the 7 key, which turns on lighting in my scene. You can just see that changes a little bit. Look, there's the 7 key. And I can actually turn on shadows. So it's this little icon here. And there's the shadow for my character. Now, what's hard to tell with this actually is this is not displaying the transparency shadow. It's actually displaying the edge of the polygons. I can show you this. If I press the 1 key, you can see that shadow is changing as I do the smoothing on and off. So it's not actually showing the transparency. If you want it to show the transparency of the texture in the shadow, you have to go into the renderer viewport 2.0 options, and look, transparent shadows is there. If I click on that, you can just subtly see that that changes to the actual shadow of the texture. So this would make a big difference if you just had, say, a flat poly with like a leaf texture on it or stuff like that. You know, it'd be the difference between having a square shadow and a shadow actually of the silhouette of the leaf. So that's a good setting to have. So that's working so far. But if we have a look at Arnold, first of all, if we do a render, it probably will just be black because you have to turn up the exposure of the lights so we can see that there's nothing there. So first of all, I will go back to my light. I'll pick that and I'll have a look in the attribute editor at this light. And if you go down to the Arnold tab, this one here, there's an exposure setting here. That's set to 0. I'm not a big expert on Arnold, but I usually find anywhere between 5 and 8, 5 to 10 is quite a good setting for the exposure. So I'm going to set that to 8. And let's have another look, see if he shows up now in my render. So just give this a moment. Yeah, that's showing up. So that's working, the shadow's working, but can you see the transparency is not working? We've got this white edge, so the transparency is not working. And I don't think Arnold likes Maya's traditional shaders. So I don't think it's a big fan of the Lambert. It's a bit of an old shader. So we're going to change this to just a standard Arnold surface shader. So if I go to the attribute editor, find my Lambert one, and if I go to the drop down, if I have a look up, it's got some other options. And so we'll just use a standard AI standard surface shader. So click on that, and it's got a few different options up here. So let's have a look at these. We'll go up to the top, and under the base, we want to map to the color. So I click on that, and I'll load in my file, just like we do with the color channel of the other one. So that's just the Banksy image, and that loads up fine. To get the transparency working, we need to go down to the geometry tab, so that we're in the file tab now. So deselect, pick your object again, go to the shader tab and scroll down to find geometry. Okay, so you need to be in the shader tab, not the actual file which we were in before. So geometry, and we need to map the mask to the opacity checker here. So again, we load in the file and go and find the mask image, this one here, and we open that up. Okay, so that's actually hopefully going to work now. There's another setting you have to do. If we try and render this, we'll still see we have the white outline. I think I'm right in saying that. Let's double check. I might have, no, we've still got the white outline. Last thing we need to do is pick the geometry, and we need to find the shape node. So look, go back to the second node, the shape node here, and we need to go down to the Arnold tab. As you can see, I've opened it here, and we need to turn the opaque button off. And if we do another render, it will work. So there you can see that the transparency is properly working. You still got a bit of a white edge outline, but that's just to do with the mask not being that precise. But the actual transparency is working now. The last thing to show you is you might set this all up for Arnold, but you might still want to do a play blast like test animations, and you might want your transparency to work in that. And you can see it's not working in the play blast view, just like the PNG or the traditional Lambert shader was working. Again, it's just an option in the viewport 2.0 settings. So if you go up to your renderer, go to the options here, and see where this is set to object sorting, so your transparency algorithm is set to object sorting. You want to set that to alpha cut, and if you set it alpha cut, let the transparency works okay. So the two options in there that you might want to look at is transparent shadows and setting the algorithm to alpha cut. And then this means that you can do play blasts and your transparencies work great, and you can do Arnold renders and they will work great as well with that. Let's just double check. There you go. That's all good. Okay.